Hey, welcome to Plants Are My Therapy. Today I'm going to be propagating spider plants. Look at this vase. This design is smart. I love this vase. Dark metallic blue glaze. I had to buy it. Actually, I bought 4. I planted this plant in here just maybe about 5 or 6 months ago, and look how much it filled out. It was actually one of these little spiderlings, and I put it outside under a shaded tree, and it just filled out this pot. This is going to be the 3rd time that I was going to harvest spiderlings to propagate from this plant, but these spiderlings don't look like they're ready. This pot I just stuck in scraps that I left over the same time that I repotted the other pot, and this is the first time I'm taking spiderlings off of this plant. But look how well it filled out. Look how well these spiderlings have developed. This plant is actually really nice. It will look really good inside, and actually spider plants do well inside the house. They can tolerate low indoor light. They prefer bright indirect light, and they grow well. I'm going to show you how I propagated this this plant. When I harvest the spiderlings, I take the stems, and I hope that they have enough roots on them, or at least startings of roots, because I've taken spiderlings off the plant and I try to propagate it in soil. They struggle. They do better if you propagate them in water first. But some of the spiderlings that I propagate, they don't ever develop roots. So when I do harvest the spiderlings, I try to make sure that they have roots, or at least root buds, because I don't think all of these spiderlings that these plants put out is viable. And I take the whole stem, and I'll show you why I take the whole stem when I harvest these spiderlings. But this plant filled out really well, and these were only scraps that I just happened to put in a spare pot. If this pot was smaller, this pot could probably be given away as this plant could be given away as a gift, but this pot is too deep. The spider plant doesn't need pots this deep. Now, this is how I propagate spiderlings. I use the stem as a sort of lattice to help keep the roots in the water and keep the rest of the plant out of the water. If you submerge the whole plant, the whole spiderling will rot. And this has been working out well for me. This little turtle vase I recycled. I recycle everything. This was from when one of my grandchildren were born. This pot is maybe about 13 years old, and I probably found at least 20 different things to do with this pot. Anyways, I put the spiderlings to propagate them in water for about 4 days to a week, just for the roots to develop out of the sun, but in bright indirect light. And look at this. This is actually 2 weeks, because I couldn't get to it any sooner. But look at those roots. Those roots are beautiful. And look at this plant. It's doing really well. Now, to pot these plants, I have the same mixture that I use for my peace lilies. And I have a basic mixture, a basic recipe for the soil that I tweak depending on the type of plant and what the plant needs. I always put a layer of gravel inside. Like I said, I recycle everything, so I have a lot of Starbucks cups. I don't usually repot plants in 4-inch pots, but this pot fits perfectly in this vase, and I was planning to give this away as a gift because one of my friends has an office, and I helped her replace all of her artificial plants with real plants. And I think a spiderling, once it gets root bound in this little pot, will send out spiderlings down, and it's going to make this vase look really good. And the rest of our office is decorated with that kind of vase, that kind of well, I don't know, theme. So, and I don't need that vase, so I'll just give it to her. Anyways, my mixture is 2 parts of soil, potting soil, about a half a part of orchid bark. That's to hold out to some of the nutrients in the soil, so it doesn't run out with the drainage water. And then also 1 part of perlite. Perlite will help with aeration, moisture, and drainage. And then, of course, I mix it well. I used to be real gentle when propagating these plants, as if they were babies. And well, they are babies. They're plant babies, but these are plants, and these plants are pretty durable. So I'm still careful, but you know, I don't you know, anyways, you have to get rid of the small leaves, because if you don't, they'll rot, and then it's a source of infection or a source for parasites. So this plant probably could go well in this 5-inch pot, but I'm going to put it into this 4-inch pot because I want it to be root bound. And then, well, that's for the gift that I talked to you about earlier. When I pot, the final layer that I use, I don't use my mixture. I use just plain potting soil, because my soil mixture has vermiculite and perlite in it. So, well, this one only has perlite. And if you water it frequently, the perlite is like foam. It'll float to the top, and after frequent waterings, it's going to make a layer of moist perlite that may attract gnats, or worse, even slugs if you leave it outside. I use gardening to keep myself busy on my days off. Several years ago, I received court-ordered custody of my grandchildren, and then a few years ago I became a widower, so now I'm a single parent of 3 grandchildren, and if I don't keep busy, I just won't get out of bed. There's an old adage that says, help others to help yourself, and it's true. Gardening does that for me. I've propagated a lot of these spider plants, and I've given away to friends at work who were recently diagnosed with cancer. And spider plants are actually pretty good plants. They can handle indoor low light, but they do well in high indirect light, and sometimes they can tolerate direct sunlight if they have time to get adjusted to that direct sunlight. There seems to be a lot of people coming down with cancer. My neighbor got pancreatic cancer. His wife got breast cancer. There are a few people at work who died from cancer. A lot of times people at work will make collections to help them financially, but that only can go so far. And a lot of people, they bake things or make them meals when they have hard time with their chemotherapy or radiation, and that's very helpful. My thing is I give them plants to brighten up their area, and spider plants and a lot of other plants are really good air purifiers. Spider plants are rated up to one of the best purifiers by NASA scientists. They also help absorb mold spores and certain types of viruses, which I think is amazing. So these plants, I must have propagated probably 50 of them, and most of them I given away as gifts, and this helps me feel better. It keeps me productive and keeps my mind from spinning of all my problems that are just bogging me down and try to keep me hopeless in bed. As far as watering, these plants don't need frequent watering. I water mine about once a week. Unless they're outside, then I water them maybe once every other day, because with the wind and the sun, increased sun means increased metabolism, which means increased water uptake from the plants, which means the soil dries out. And also there's other factors of the increased sun and the wind. Once these plants get established, these roots just grow really big, almost like tubers, and they hold a lot of water. So they're very forgiving as far as watering goes. If you forget to water them, they can last quite a while if you forget to water them. The problem is don't overwater them, and don't let them sit in water. Most plants do not like to sit in water. The only plant that I discovered that loves to sit in water is the umbrella palm. I don't have a picture of that, but I have a lot growing around my house. But I've never seen an indoor plant that likes sitting in water. So once that drainage tray is full, empty it. And if you have to think whether you're going to water the plant or not, if you're like on the borderline thinking, well, maybe it's not moist enough, maybe it's not dry enough, well, the best thing to do is not water it if you have to think, because they can go a couple days to dry out. They like to be dried between watering. And I suppose you can get one of those sensors to sense those plants. I don't have that. I don't know if I'm gonna spend my money on that yet. So far everything's working out fine, so I'm just going to continue it that way. If it looks dry, if I lift up the plant and it feels light, I'll water it. If I think I water it too much, then I'll just take it outside for a day, and you know, the water will evaporate, or the plant will use it because of its increased metabolism. And these are the finished products. These are the plants. Just from one plant, we propagated it into 6 more plants, and in a few months, in bright indirect light, these plants are going to fill out nicely, and I can't wait to see this one. If you're thinking about a plant to get a spider plant. If you haven't tried taking care of spider plants, these plants are really good house plants. Thank you for watching this video. Please like this video and please subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much for watching. Aloha.